to a public execution of my character. Standing in front of 50 cheering guests, she held up a designer stroller, looked directly at me, and laughed into the microphone. At least my baby will have a father who stays. Some people just can't keep a man. The crowd chuckled, and my own mother nodded, adding loudly, "Some women just make terrible life choices, honey. Don't worry about her." I swallowed the bitter humiliation, squeezing my knuckles white just to keep from crying in front of them. But then, my 8-year-old son stood up from his chair. The entire yard went dead silent as a small voice cut through the laughter, asking clearly, "Aunt Naya, if your baby's dad is so perfect, should I tell everyone here about Uncle Mike's other family? The one living in the city with the 2 other kids." The microphone slipped from my sister's trembling hand, clattering loudly against the stone patio as the entire room froze in absolute horror. Before we get to the exact moment that shattered my sister's perfect world, I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end. You can see how far my voice has reached. My name is Clara, and at 28 years old, I have spent nearly a decade learning exactly how cruel your own flesh and blood can be when you don't fit into their picture-perfect mold. I am a single mother to a brilliant, deeply observant 8-year-old boy named Leo. When I was 19, Leo's father walked out the moment the pregnancy test turned positive, leaving me to build a life from absolute scratch. I worked 2 jobs, skipped countless meals, and spent my 20s sacrificing everything to ensure my son had a safe, loving home. I was proud of the life I built, but to my family, I was nothing more than a broken statistic and a constant social embarrassment. My younger sister, Naya, who is 25, was the undisputed golden child of the family. She was narcissistic, deeply spoiled, and pathologically obsessed with appearances. Our parents completely worshipped her, funding her lifestyle and treating her like royalty. Naya had recently managed to secure an engagement to Mike, a seemingly wealthy corporate executive who drove a luxury sports car and showered our parents with expensive gifts. The moment Mike entered the picture, my parents began using him as a weapon to degrade me even further. At every family dinner, my mother would drop heavy, passive-aggressive remarks about how Naya knew how to secure a real man, while I had just made terrible, low-class mistakes. I chose to stay quiet during those attacks, focusing entirely on my son and my work, refusing to let their toxic superficiality drain my energy. But Naya's upcoming extravagant backyard baby shower was about to push their cruelty to a dangerous, public limit, and they had no idea that their perfect golden world was already built on quicksand. Naya demanded that I attend her extravagant, high-budget backyard baby shower, sending me a text message that felt more like a legal summons than a family invitation. She didn't want me there out of sisterly love. She wanted me there to serve as a miserable backdrop so her own perfect life could shine even brighter in comparison. The event was a massive high-society spectacle, hosted at our parents' sprawling suburban home. The entire backyard had been transformed into an opulent wonderland, filled with towering floral arrangements, custom silk drapes, and wealthy guests sipping champagne from crystal flukes. I only agreed to go to keep the peace, dressed in a simple, modest dress and holding tight to Leo's small hand as we walked into the crowded yard. The condescending atmosphere hit us the exact moment we stepped onto the patio. My mother didn't even greet Leo. Instead, she looked at my outfit, let out a loud sigh, and whispered, "Couldn't you have borrowed something nicer, Clara? This is a high-class event, and your lack of effort is embarrassing to Naya." Naya shrugged, flashing a smug smile as she adjusted her diamond bracelet. "Let it go, Mom," she said loudly, ensuring the nearby guests could hear her. "We can't expect Clara to understand the standards of a 2-parent, wealthy household. Just be glad she found a babysitter. Oh, wait," she brought him. They treated my son and me like uninvited charity cases, completely unaware that their desperate display of superficial perfection was about to backfire in front of their entire social circle. The moment of peak public humiliation arrived just as the main course was being cleared. My sister Naya stood up, holding a wireless microphone in one hand and gesturing toward a massive, custom-imported designer stroller that our parents had proudly purchased for her. Instead of using the platform to offer a simple speech of gratitude to her 50 high society guests, she fixed her gaze directly on me, her eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction. She tapped the microphone, her voice echoing clearly across the manicured lawn. "I just want to thank everyone for being here," Naya began, her lips curling into a sharp, condescending smirk. Looking around at this beautiful setup and holding my amazing fiancé's hand, I just feel so incredibly blessed. At least my baby will have a real father who actually stays. Some women in our family just can't keep a man, but I guess some of us just know how to make proper life choices. A wave of low, uncomfortable chuckles rippled through the crowd of wealthy guests, and people began turning their heads to look directly at me. Sitting right at the head table, my mother nodded right along with the insult, adding loudly into the quiet yard, "Some women just make terrible life choices, honey. Don't worry about her tonight." I swallowed the bitter, burning humiliation, squeezing my knuckles white against the edge of my chair just to keep from crying in front of them. My heart ached, not for myself, but for my 8-year-old son sitting right next to me. I reached over to cover Leo's ears, desperately trying to shield him from the emotional damage of seeing his mother publicly degraded by her own family. But before I could even touch his shoulder, Leo calmly pulled my hand away and stood straight up from his chair. The entire backyard went dead silent as my 8-year-old son stood completely straight, his small but incredibly steady voice cutting cleanly through the lingering, awkward laughter of the crowd. He didn't look angry or upset. He just looked directly at Naya with a scary, piercing curiosity that immediately demanded the attention of every single person in the yard. "Aunt Naya," Leo asked, his clear voice echoing off the brick walls of the house, "if your baby's dad is so perfect, should I tell everyone here about Uncle Mike's other family? The one living in the city with the 2 other kids who call him Daddy." The effect of his words was instantaneous and terrifying. The wireless microphone slipped right out of Naya's trembling fingers, falling with a deafening, high-pitched screech as it clattered violently against the stone patio. The smug, arrogant smile evaporated from Julian's face, leaving his skin looking completely bloodless and hollow. Mike, who had been leaning casually against a patio bar, froze mid-sip, his eyes widening in pure, unadulterated terror as his glass shattered against the tiles. My mother instantly lunged across the table, her face twisted in a mask of absolute panic as she tried to aggressively silence my son. "Shut your mouth, you brat," she hissed loudly, her voice cracking as she looked around at the gasping guests. "Clara, control your lying child right now. He is making up disgusting stories to ruin his sister's special day." But Leo didn't flinch. He remained completely unbothered, standing his ground with an absolute precision that shifted the entire power dynamic of the party in a single breath. The collective gasp of 50 high society neighbors hung in the thick afternoon air. To understand how my 8-year-old son had uncovered such a dark, explosive secret, you have to understand just how incredibly observant and tech-savvy Leo truly was. 2 weeks before the baby shower, Mike had volunteered to take Leo to a high-tech gaming arcade at the local mall while he was visiting our parents' house. It was a rare, unusual gesture of kindness from Mike, but it quickly became obvious that he was just using the trip as a distraction, so he could step outside and make a series of private, highly stressed phone calls. While Mike was away from our table, paced frantically outside the glass doors of the arcade, he carelessly left his unlocked smartphone sitting face up right next to Leo's game token cup. Within minutes, a frantic, nonstop string of urgent text messages and direct photo notifications began flooding his screen. Leo, curious about the flashing screen, looked down. The messages were from a woman named Sarah, and they were filled with furious, heartbreaking text previews demanding overdue child support payments and immediate legal answers. Attached to the furious messages were recent photos of 2 young, smiling children standing inside a festive apartment, holding up a handmade birthday banner that read, "We love you, Daddy Mike." Leo, possessing a near photographic memory and an advanced understanding of digital interfaces, silently read every single notification without touching the device. He memorized the exact spelling of Sarah's full name, the profile icons, and the damning message previews. At the time, His innocent mind didn't fully grasp the mature, adult weight of a secret double life or infidelity. He just stored the information away in his brain as a strange puzzle until the exact moment Aunt Naya chose to publicly attack his mother's dignity. Hearing Leo's precise words, a sudden rush of clarity hit me, and I instantly connected the dots. I pulled my smartphone from my purse, my fingers moving with rapid determination as I searched the public social media platforms for the exact full name Leo had memorized from the arcade. Within seconds, the undeniable truth flashed on my screen. It wasn't just a rumor, it was a completely documented second life. Sarah's public profile was filled with years of family photos, holiday vacations, and recent birthday parties, all featuring a smiling, attentive Mike celebrating as a devoted husband and father of two. Our parents had proudly set up a large digital projector screen on the patio to display a rotating slideshow of Naya and Mike's engagement photos. Seizing the moment, I connected my phone directly to the venue's. The beautiful engagement pictures vanished, replaced by giant, high-definition photographs of Mike standing beside his real wife and children in front of a Christmas tree just 5 months ago. The high society guests erupted into absolute chaos, gasping and whispering frantically as they stared at the screen. Naya turned on Mike, her face contorting into a mask of pure rage as she began screaming, slapping his chest, and demanding answers. Mike didn't even try to defend himself. He just turned and sprinted toward his luxury car, exposed to the world not as a wealthy, eligible bachelor, but as a heavily indebted fraud who is desperately juggling two completely separate households. My mother collapsed into a lawn chair, staring at the screen in absolute, silent defeat as her golden illusion shattered into pieces. I looked at my family one last time, seeing them for exactly what they were, small, desperate people drowning in the ruins of their own superficiality. I reached down, took Leo's small hand in mine, and gave it a gentle, proud squeeze. "Come on, buddy," I whispered, my voice sounding lighter than it had in years. "Let's go home." Without waiting for a single word from my hysterical sister or my defeated parents, we walked calmly out of the chaotic backyard, leaving the heavy baggage of their toxic judgment behind us forever. The public scandal they had engineered to destroy me had completely consumed them instead. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was absolute. Naya's perfect engagement shattered into a million legal pieces, and my mother's precious social reputation among the neighborhood elite was permanently ruined. Meanwhile, back in our quiet, loving home, the bond between my son and me grew stronger than ever. Leo had shown me that true family isn't about bloodlines or perfect appearances. It's about the people who stand up for you when the rest of the world tries to bring you down. Now, I'm curious about you who listened to my story. What would you have done if your child exposed a massive family secret to defend you? Would you have stayed to watch the chaos? Or meanwhile, I'm leaving on the final screen 2 other stories.